Josh Brown to the conversation. Also, of course, Ritholtz Wealth co-founder and CEO. You've heard the conversation, Josh. We had a really nice day today, and I wonder whether you think this was a peak inflation rally.
I could have listened to more Keith, one of my favorites. I think he's spot on.
Or Chris.
I think it's not
one. I like Keith too, but I like Chris even more.
Chris, you did a great job. And I think the thing that you said that was really important was that we could have an overall bounce in stocks that does not include the growth and low profit area. And if you look historically, it's actually very rare that whatever the leadership group was of a bull market that's been extinguished, it's very rare that that leadership group comes back into vogue. In fact, it's usually the opposite. Investors discover new stories, they fall out of love, they make margin calls or miss them, and those names tend to diminish in popularity for years and sometimes forever. And we've seen that with high tech in the past. We've seen that with resources, emerging markets. So I think you're going to nail it with that call. And I think the point for viewers that Chris made is that you can always find smart things to do. Like that's really what people should be thinking now. So I saw a stat this morning. The minute I heard it, I said, that sounds toppy as hell. I heard, and we looked, the 10-year Treasury yield broke above its 200-month moving average for the first time since 1987. So this is a development 40 years in the making. And as soon as I heard it, I said, all right, that sounds too much. So I'm not here to call a peak in inflation. I wouldn't be the person to do that. But that sounds a little bit out of control. I think you're going to see that subside. I think that unlocks a portion of the market that becomes more buyable because maybe expectations have finally caught up with reality. And whether or not we peak in overall headline inflation, in the components that matter, we've already not only peaked but are rolling over. And that's a process that I think will happen segment by segment. Yesterday we talked about, I dare you to try to plan a trip. Look at the travel names today. Look at what the guy
Delta,
from
Listen
Delta.
to Ed Bastian, right?
So Delta said over the last 5 weeks, we've experienced the highest level of sales and booking activity at any time in our history. Yeah, you know why? Because if you had an 8-year-old in 2020 that got a canceled trip to Disney, you're still doing it when they're 10. That's what's going on now. Ain't going to last forever. It's definitely a catch-up. But so what? Feels good if you're in those names. So I think there are smart things that you can be doing. You don't have to have an inflation call or a recession call or even an S&P call. You just have to say, I'm an investor. Some of these things have been overdone. In my view, yields, inflation chasing, hysteria, that's one of those things.